Second thing that's going to make you stand out for your clients and customers is clarity. Now, it seems really simple and intuitive that you need to be clear, but it actually is really uncommon to see social media accounts that do a really good job of clearly laying out the path for their customers of how to purchase items and how to follow through on a purchasing decision. So, what you want to do is you want to use every part of your social media presence to provide crisp, clear information to your potential clients and customers, as well as your existing clients and customers. So you can use your bio to very clearly put your value proposition in your bio, and what the value proposition is, what you do or what you make, who it's for, and why it's different from your competitors. So you can just Google how do you write a value proposition, and you'll get probably 10,000 different ways to write it. So that's just a really simplified version of it, but you can really go through an exercise if you've never done this before and really like write out your value proposition so that you know it. And the reason that it's important to do that if you've never done it is that it makes social media much easier when you are really clear on your value proposition and your positioning in the market. So, for example, where I live, there are a ton of yoga teachers. So, if you're going to start a social media feed for your yoga studio, well, if all you do is sort of throw up stock photos of people doing yoga, you're not going to get a lot of traction. So, you need to sit down and think about, what am I trying to do and how is this different from what's on the market? And how does that translate visually and in these captions? So maybe you focus on the spiritual aspect of yoga, maybe you focus on the wellness aspect of yoga. There's someone locally where I live that focuses on sort of the racist spaces of yoga, and that's part of her brand. You can really sort of pick, right? This is up to you to choose whatever feels the most authentic for you. So if you don't do this, it's going to make it really tricky to post on days when you're not feeling like you have a lot of energy. The more clear you are on your value proposition and on who you are and on what space you occupy in that market, the easier it's going to be to think of things to post. Because, for example, if you're talking about wellness spaces, then you might be posting about your air cleaner in your yoga space, or the scentless candles that you use, or your cleaning practices during COVID, or how you use like a homemade spray to clean the mats. There's sort of a lot of different things that you can be focusing on. But if you don't get clear on your value proposition, you're going to be overwhelmed by the number of things that you could focus on. And so it's really helpful to get that clear. And then once you have that clear, make sure that your bio is clear. Make sure that you include your location in your bio. It's a rookie mistake to leave it out. Some people leave it out because they want to be seen as sort of being a national or an international company. But so many people are trying to buy local right now, and that this has been true for the last few years, and it just becomes more and more true every year, that if you leave off where you're located, then you're just missing out on a group of people who would really love to support you if only they knew that you were local to them. So I always encourage people to include, if you have a physical address, like you're a brick and mortar, include that. But even if you're not a brick and mortar, include your neighborhood or your town, sort of depending on the size. So if you are in New York City, you might want to put Brooklyn, but if you live in a small town, you might just want to put the name of your town. So not only do you want to be clear on your value proposition and you want to be clear on where you're located, when you're actually posting, you want to make sure that you're reminding people of the steps that they need to take to make a purchasing decision. So you don't want to have a caption that's like, I want to remind you of the steps to take to make a purchasing decision, right? Like but what you want to do is have each post remind people sort of surreptitiously or quietly of the different steps that they need to take. So, for example, I have a Squarespace website, and it's a little tricky when you click add to cart. The button doesn't transition to a checkout button, so you have to scroll back to the top of the page to actually check out. And so whenever I have, listings, or if I'm posting about purchasing tickets for something, I remind people, like, when you go, once you add to cart, you have to scroll back to the top to purchase. So because if you don't do that, then some people are going to get frustrated and just navigate away from your website and probably not come back, because when people have a hard time on websites, it's really discouraging from them. It really discourages them from coming back. So you want to be in your captions and in your images, consistently providing people with information. So if you have a brick and mortar space that's kind of out of the way or hard to find, you want to make sure that you're reminding people of how to get there. So you could be posting images of the outside of the building, of the parking lot, of your neighborhood. One of my favorite things to do, and we'll talk a little bit about this more in the next section, is to actually share images of your neighborhood and of the businesses that are around you, and say, like, oh, go down to Hanson's Bakery. It's only 2 doors down. And the reason that you do that is not just to support Hanson's Bakery, which is awesome, but also because every time people drive by Hanson's Bakery, then they're going to think, oh yeah, that's right next to the yoga studio that I wanted to try out. So what you're doing is, with this very same post, you are supporting someone else in your community and reminding people of where you're located. So in your captions, if you can always just post something that's like, oh, look at this beautiful stream, right? Like, you don't have to have like a purpose to every single caption. But at the same time, if that stream is a 5-minute walk from your space, then saying, I love the 5-minute walk from our space to this stream, it's a great way for me to blow off steam in between sessions, right? So you can utilize just about any post that you want to make. You can find a way to tie it into where you are, or what your purpose is, or who you are, or what makes you different. So if you have posts and you're sort of consistently posting, but your captions are these like long rambly things about customer service, or there are these tiny little captions that just say, new watch style available, you're really missing out on an opportunity to provide clarity to your customers on exactly what your product is, exactly how you're different from other products or services, and exactly how to buy. So I call this wayfinding. It's an architectural and urban design term that refers to how easy it is to find a place if you don't have a map or a smartphone. So if you're dropped into the middle of a city and you know that you need to find a hospital, how easy is it to find the hospital? Can you see the hospital over the top of the other buildings? Is there a map like on the side of one of the buildings? Are the street signs clear? Are there literally like crosses and arrows that direct you to the hospital? Because a lot of people jump onto social media and just start sharing like snippets, bits and pieces here and there. And when you do that, it's hard sometimes for customers to understand the full process of how to purchase. So if you have, especially if you have a product that you can purchase in multiple places. So if you sell jewelry and you have several wholesale accounts, so people can buy in several stores, but they can also buy from Etsy, and they can also buy from, Amazon Handmade. Well, you want to make sure that they understand all of the different ways to be purchasing from you. So clarity is key. It's truly one of the most important things for a strong social media marketing presence. And even though it seems so simple, that clarity will set you apart from other accounts, because it's so easy to forget that clarity is important. And most accounts do. So you should be using your captions and your bio to answer those same frequently asked questions that we talked about in the photo section. How big is your product? How fast does it ship? What is the texture? How do people use it? All their alternative uses. Is it recyclable? All of the questions that you get through your feedback forms that customers have, criticisms that you get in your user feedback and in reviews, all of those things you want to be answering through both your captions, your bio, and your